You see, we live in an amazingly complicated but then very simple world. I mean, our world is so simple that more often than not, we need people or circumstances to complicate things for us. Are you ready for an example? 2x plus 2x divided by 3. What's the answer? Provided x is equal to 3. What if I said, if Peter and Paul contribute 3 naira and share it between 3 children, how much each person? You see the difference? Different answers though, but the understanding to get to the answers are quite different. The world we live in today demands so much from young people, and it's good that most of us, at least, are young people here today. And in a few years from now, if you haven't had job interview experiences, you'll begin to get them. Now, the vast amount of information hitting young people every second in this present world is simply mind-blowing. There's so much pressure on you and by the society, by academic requirements, to perform, to constantly deliver. So, what happens is what I'm going to illustrate very soon. You see, I noticed that a lot of people, after leaving school, such as this institution, they get to the outside world with very little preparation concerning how to get that dream job that we all desperately wanted when we were in school. And it's not because they are not smart enough. It's not because they are not intelligent. Sometimes, or more often than not, it's simply because they didn't prepare for those job interviews. Now, when I say they didn't prepare for the job interviews, it's not that they did not know they had job interviews, but they got to the job interviews, and based on the responses that came out from them, the people on the flip side of the table thought they were not suitable. And what's the point? If you spend so many years in school, a lot of hard work, and then you don't get those jobs after you leave school, it can be quite disheartening. I've had my fair share of job interviews in my life, and I've seen people. Wait. There are no mercenaries in there. How many people have gone for a job interview before? That's what I thought. Not very many people. Don't worry, your time is coming. But my prayer, I can only pray that no interview will fall your hand this year. That is not a good feeling. Many years ago, a young man went for a job interview. Looked very good, sounded maybe very good. And when he got to the part of how much he would expect to be paid, he said 12,500 naira. Yeah, that was the reaction that came from the owner of the company, the CEO, and the panel of judges and accurate timekeepers. They couldn't believe it. How would a Nigerian graduate or any graduate from anywhere in the world expect to be paid that kind of, salary? And the boss apparently twitched in his seat and said, "What?" And the young man said, "No, 10,000. Yep, true life story. You see, and one thing I've realized from my experience attending job interviews, those times when I used to, and conducting job interviews for people, I realized 3 quick things. You see, don't forget, before I go too far, I'm only here to wrap up this day by telling you just one single thing. Stop learning, start playing. Really. Yes, I know. I know people who want to. Does that make sense? Stop learning, start playing. Even the one when I they learn never reach. Now, you see, I discovered a principle. I'm using myself as an example because I went through all that. So the best way for me to illustrate is to use personal experiences. That the best of the information that I've been able to gather and keep and utilize came while I was having fun, while putting the information in my head. Don't forget the story of that young man I said who went for a job interview and messed up real big because he probably didn't know how much he should have asked for. Another young man went for a job interview, if you like, maybe a young lady, and the question came forth after several stages to select the best candidate. She apparently performed the best. And they said, you know what, we think you are the best candidate for this job, but quick one, what do you think about our website? And she goes, I've actually not seen it, but I'm sure there's something we can do when I enter. Young people go for job interviews because there's a demand from the society that you leave school, you have to get a job. So you want to go out there and try your best to get the job. But at the point of interview, HR consultants and company owners have made us realize that sometimes Nigerian graduates or graduates generally in Africa are not employable. Now this is where I'm going to. They seem not to be employable, not because they didn't go to school. Like I said, I identified three main things I'm going to quickly run through. The first one, just sheer lack of information. Too many people go through school not really caring about what kind of information they should acquire. That's going to be important after school. Second thing, low self-esteem. Third, 50 shades of the truth. Renew your mind. I wasn't talking about that one. A quick run through. Just apparent lack of information. We go to school because some of us, I was one of them, I had to go to school. I mean, you start from primary school, you find yourself in the university. Don't ask me how it happened. You just have. If it didn't happen for you like that, something was wrong with you. And then you discover you're in your final year, and you can't talk like a professional in that field because you just didn't really care. And you hoped just by flowing with the waves of academics, something will push you, like overflowing flood under Third Mainland Bridge to VGC. You just find yourself on that executive chair, and then it doesn't happen, and you ask questions, why? Don't forget, lack of information. What I discovered. The second thing, low self-esteem. Because the interviewers look intimidating, a lot of young people cower, and they are not confident to express themselves at the point of those interviews. And the third thing I mentioned about 50 shades of the truth. Sometimes too many people are just too, I don't want to say arrogant, maybe just too scared to tell the truth. What do you think about so and so at a job interview? Personal experience. I'm sorry, sir, I have no clue what that means. However, what I can tell you is that simple. You don't have to tell a lie. Guess what? Some of you have job interviews planned that you are going to next week, next month, or sometime when you leave school. It's going to happen. When you get there, relax, be confident. Forget about low self-esteem. Get the information required. Be comfortable and tell them what you know. Why am I using this illustration? And you're beginning to wonder, what does this have to do with? Stop learning. Start playing. That I used that because the reason why I'm standing here is I experimented with a character. That character is called Frank Donga, which he epitomizes a lot of young people who, more often than not, don't have the required information at the points of job interviews, or have low self-esteem, or maybe just a little bit too confident about the wrong information. And the other third factor, 50 shades of the truth. Just tell the truth. Don't give it varieties of shade. If it's no, it is no. I don't know, I don't know. You understand? So I used that as a model to test run the fact that people didn't get those jobs or didn't feel that sense of achievement when they left school because the information that was necessary to mold them, the information that they needed to learn, wasn't there. And so performance at job interviews, the performance would be a bit funny. Why was it like that? They were trying to learn and they were not playing. Don't forget, when I started this talk, I started with the fact that there's a vast amount of information out there, and the pressure on young people to perform, to deliver today is enormous. And to keep up with that, I believe that in the spirit of breaking out of the box, to get the information you need to set you apart, to make you outstanding, to make you try new frontiers, break down barriers, you need to stop learning. You need to start playing. Education is supposed to be fun. Nobody really learns anything permanently under pressure. Remember those times you crammed those things for the examination, and just as soon as you stepped out of the door, you couldn't remember a word. And the moment you threw up the paper and the pencil and said, "Oh, well," that was the end, and that was the end for life. But remember that time when that girl in your class told you about the last episode of Checkmate? Oh, sorry, a bit old school. What's the new TV series these days? Empire, thank you. Or what happened with the Kardashians? What did Kim say to, and she gave you accurate details, but because you enjoyed the information, you played with it, you remembered, it stuck for the longest period. And guess what? You didn't know how you did it, but you were able to recount every bit of detail that your friend told you a week after. 2 days after your professor left your class. You can't even remember the color of his tie. Stop learning. Start playing. The information required to set you apart, to break that new frontier, is only going to stay with you and make you outstanding at every point where you need to speak to the public like this. Nobody is even going to believe me if I ever told you I've never addressed a crowd this big before. Would you believe me? Because I played a fast one on y'all. Anyways, so the point is that interview, that public speaking you want to so desperately get into, that one-on-one you need to have, that confidence you need to build, that success, that new thing you need to try. You need to stop learning it, start playing with it. People that make the most impression on you are people that cause you pain or people that cause you joy. And I discovered, now this is a summary of all the rambling, if it sounds like that I'm pushing out. Humor was that tool I decided to experiment with. I had a message. I felt the pain of countless young people that attended job interviews without success. I felt like telling them, do you know what? I've seen people with the 3rd class get the job while the folks with the 1st class didn't. All because of the way they performed or they handled the interview. So I experimented with humor. Because why? I realized that people responded well to humor. So the character Frank Donga was created to be a melange of different people that you probably have walked into. I'm sure you guys know 1 or 2 persons that are a bit Frankish. I don't blame you. There's a Frank in all of us. No, not even you. Remember that time you went to apply for visa? Exactly. That's the thing. So the whole point here is to get people to be more self-confident, to work more on themselves, get the information they need, to be better prepared. But they're only going to do that when the information they need stays with them. And that new thing you need, that information you need, with all the vast amount of information challenging our attention these days as students, as young professionals, it's only going to become permanent and ingrained in you if you stop learning and start playing. Enjoy the process of getting information. It should be fun. It should be interesting. It's easy to look at Frank and say, oh, poor guy. He's always rambling, has his foot in his mouth. But that's only an example of the countless numbers of people you probably have met at one point or the other. Yes, I know. Some people are looking at me like, this bro should just entertain us and let's go, Jerry. Yes, but it's important for us not to forget the message that brought us here. Because I believe that there's so much we can achieve. There's so much we can break away from as stereotypes. There's so much that awaits you if you can just break the barrier, breaking the box. Finally, how in the world do you break out of that box? I believe the answer is to simply understand and realize that there is actually no box. The only box probably was created by you. So what I did with Frank Donga was create that character to help me explain to people like me that you need to get informed, get prepared, and be self-confident at every job interview. But instead of organizing a seminar, instead of organizing tutorials, I decided to use the tool of humor, make people enjoy the process, so that when I tell them that you shouldn't go to a job interview, a new job interview, slandering your former boss, they will get the message. You know why? Because Frank Donga goes to the new job interview and says all the wrongest things about his last employment and finds out that the new boss to be, by the way, is related to the old boss. That happens every time. You know that story about the guy that insulted the gate man on his way to a job interview? And somebody tried to step in and say, "Oga, calm down." And I said, "Please, please, please. I think nobody asked you to interfere in our matter. Nobody called you." And got to the third floor. And that was the same guy that was super interviewing him. Yep. So that's the summary. Stop learning. Start enjoying your life. To break out of that box, to break limitations, you need to take hold of the information you need. And it's only going to come when you embrace enjoying the process of learning. It might sound a little bit too academic, but trust me, down the line, we are going to realize that the only thing holding us down from getting to the next level is actually enjoying what we are doing right now. I suffered tremendously in the past from different things, simultaneous equation and all manner of subjects in school. But I realized the moment we had fun and we explained and expressed those complicated calculations in fun and easy ways to understand, they became very clear to us. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to finally tell you that you might be the only one creating that box for yourself. Stop learning. Enjoy it. Start playing. That humor, that fun thing you love to enjoy, that fun process, apply it to the process of learning. You never know where it's going to get you. Because even though that every professional that knows his job, he cannot even go well. If at any point in time he does not organize to prepare accurate description of, that's the thing.